Welcome to Digital Transformation Consulting. I'm Kamakshi. Today we will be discussing on the cost optimization of IT and its operations in an enterprise level. One fine day, there is a board meeting and all the executives are present there, and they want to take an important decision regarding the finance budget, and all the HR department, CEO, COO, and CTO, and everyone are sitting there. And while they were discussing, there are a lot of reductions and expenses needs to be done. Okay, and one of thing is the IT budget needs to be reduced, and we need to cut the expenses by another 10 percentage. Is what the uh, objective given for the IT department. For next 1 year, there is 20 percentage cut in the cost of IT. As a CTO, how we can address it? Is there a way that we can do it? How we can do it? So let me take a problem statement. So after hearing this, the CTO comes to his seat. Yes, he thinks, right, what has happened? What has happened suddenly? Why should I reduce the cost, right? So what is the primary driver behind the IT cost initiatives? First, that should be understood. Is it just the executive pressure to reduce the costs, or it could be an economic outlook for the organization, like there may be a the market may not be good, or some giant has introduced some new product into the market which is totally rival for our product. And for the first point, there may be a change in the management or change in the executives at the board level, and there could be some other conflict or conflict with our existing partners. So there could be a lot of reasons why this IT budget has to be cut. And there could be some funds and there could be some initiatives, like the funds whatever we are spending should go into something else, and not the expenses is too much. The expenses is just 40 percentage of the revenue, which is not going to help anymore. So I want to redirect some funds to external investments. So on these three categories, where is I am is the decision taken, right? And second thing is, will it apply to, well, I'm going to give the strategy for this. So what we need, or how do we can reduce the cost optimization, how do we make the cost optim, I wouldn't say cost reduction, I would say the word as cost optimization across the whole session, right? And is this cost optimization strategy is going to help me in only specific domain, or is it going to help me in all the domains? Yes, it is going to help in all the industries like banking, insurance, finance, retail, healthcare, or whatever it is. So this is what we are going to discuss today, how we can reduce the cost, right? So there is a saying that for every IT leader who has been born, they were asking us to do more with very less money, because they think that the technology has gone at a very faster level. At 1999, I was using a laptop, or the computer, which cost me around 1.5 lakhs, and now you can do a lot more with just you know um, 30,000 or 20,000 bucks. So why don't you still spending this much money? Are you old, or you don't have any strategy to improve the cost, right? So all these questions come up, and as a CTO, or a CDO, whomever it is, they need to do more with very less money, and that is the whole scenario of the IT department. So we are under pressure to deliver more with a very less cost. Yes. So this is just a quick question: is cutting the budget is the cost optimization? True or false? See, actually, by cutting the budget, we can save the money, but definitely it is not going to help the cost optimization. Some of the features or functions may stop, may hail. Okay, and but it is not going to help us anymore. So definitely cutting budget is not the cost optimization. I cannot cut the budget in an IT. For example, if I am spending something on the procuring a hardware to improve my network latency, should I stop cutting the budget for it? No, definitely not. And is cutting stuff is cost optimization? No, definitely not, because when you cut the resource, it is not going to optimize anyway. Again, we need to find out exactly where the staff productivity is, and based on that only we can take this decision. So cutting stuff is definitely not cost optimization. Does the freezing budget is cost optimization? So as a CTO, like I say, for the next 7 months I am not going to spend anything new, so let it run with the I, with the zero infrastructure cost, new occurring cost, and with the just the employee cost or whatever the recurring cost is happening now. Will that help? No, definitely not, because if there are certain security issues happens, and definitely we may need to procure something in the mission critical applications, or if there is something like that, right? So we cannot even froze the budget, which leads to the cost optimization. Definitely it is also no. And the next one is standardize the whole enterprise and find out what are the exact costs even spent in penny, like buying from a mouse to buying from a hyper convergence software, hyper convergence servers, or procuring a big cloud or whatever it is. Do you have the complete visibility of the cost? And if you know this, and if you try to control over this, is it cost optimization? I would say yes. So we are going to see in the next few slides, like this is going to help me to optimize the cost. So this is our agenda today. Why the future demands full visibility into the cost of IT services. We need a full visibility into the cost, because if there are some hidden costs, definitely we don't know, and it is not going to help me to control that cost, right? It may be a hidden cost, and it is running elsewhere. And next one is we are going to look on the standardization and how we are going to leverage the cloud and manage services. So what's the point? What should I do with all these things? So this is our agenda. So let me first drive into the getting the visibility into cost of IT services. See, as the first thing, what you need to do is you need to look at the visibility into every penny that you spent on IT, right? Where my money is spent. Is it spent on buying a network or any application, or it's an ingrown product, or so like you go to grocery store and you take a list what all I have bought. So similarly, if it is the existing expense or a new expense, we need to have a complete visibility for the expense that we have to get into. And next one is the shadow IT. Not just take the shadow IT, just give me a minute. Not just the direct costs, we need to also look at the indirect costs, like the call center team, even though if it is not having any infrastructure or any application, but it is also a cost of IT. Even not technical, we just have to look into non-technical and the operations that is getting into. And the third one is the capital budget that we are going to spend in next 7 months or 1 year, or for next 3 years. We should really have a really well defined hardware schedules, and when it is going to deployed, the capex and the opex. So capex, I would say it is coming under the change the business, and opex costs generally get into the run the business. So we need to get into the complete future spend of all these things into our mind, right, and jot on everything. And then so there are few costs which will not give us from the 1 year range, we need to calculate it in an year range. So if there is only uh, 5 months or 6 months spent that is going to happen, we need to calculate the run rate for next 12 years. Okay, so if we have just 5 months data or 5 months cost, definitely it will come into a hidden cost. So we need to have calculate this into 1 year cost, right? So there could be new CIO coming into the organizations, and he may have some other budget, if you are a CTO. So we need to get the data from all the departments, and then it should also include the traveling and training costs. So end to end spent for a budget for the cost center for IT is what we need to take. And this is the general spent percentage over the revenue of the whole enterprise. Normally the IT spending revenue for the cross industry is 4.9 percentage, and the IT employees spending is about the 5.3. When I say IT spending, it includes the infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, it includes starting from mouse, keyboard, monitor, networks, hyperconvergence servers, or cloud servers, applications, and products, security products, etc. And IT employees are starting from the developer, the support person, the call center person, and to the CTO level. So it is going to be in a general industry aggregation, it is 5.3 percentage. And when you see the run percentage is generally 78 percentage of the total IT budget, not the revenue. So grow is 19 percentage, and transform is. These are all the significant numbers which was taken across the industry. So we don't have to stick to it. Generally it depends on the uh, the domain that we are. So in banking, if you see on the right hand side, banking and finance, it takes 7.9 percentage of the revenue, of the total revenue of the organization. Healthcare is 4.5 percentage, and in energy sectors, it is just the IT is just 1.8 percentage, right? And the contractors is generally in 18 percentage, and in-house is 82 percentage, which may not be applicable for certain. If the organization has a strategy of we don't need any in-house, we need very you know thin line of or the lean team, and everything has to be contracted out, definitely this percentage is not going to suit there. So it has to be chosen accordingly. And IT capex and opex is 24 percentage, 76 percentage. And if you see the hardware, the software outsourcing percentages were given. Generally outsource the personnel is 37 percentage, the IT employees, and the SaaS, software as a service, is 6 percentage, and public cloud goes to just 3 percentage. So if you don't have this in mind, all right, okay, if you don't have the cost in this way, it is going to be a difficult challenge for us to project it for the management. So it should have the cost, whatever we have should have a complete transparency. And when I roll the cost from bottom to up, it should be completely, it should give us the complete cost where it has all the transparency, or the cost where nothing is hidden. So first we should have the complete visibility of the cost over IT services, and then what we can do for the cost optimization. Yes, the next point is the standardization, which you're going to look into. You see this photo, so it was a little bit clumsy, and there is no standardized or organized way of keeping things. If this is our budget in IT, definitely there will be some hidden costs, and there will be a lot of problems. So definitely the actions taken in the last 2 years have resulted in greatest cost savings, right? And consolidation and optimization has to happen across all IT business disciplines. See, because IT itself, if you see, there is a lot of disruptions happening over the market. Okay, so whatever is there 5 years before is not now. So whatever we develop before 5 years is normally wide now, and there are products which are being developed and customized. So the problem with customized applications is, well, okay, I have my customized application for my whole business process, but the problem is, since the technology changes, who will update the technology? Okay, so there should be a separate team who should take care of upgrading the security measures, or any patches for the OS level and for the application technology level. For example, if I use Java 1.4 and suddenly it moved to 2.4, so again there will be a lot of changes over the system, right? So all these things should be taken into consideration, and we should have a standardized mechanism of things like how things should work. So the first one is the infrastructure facility that we need to look into. For example, when I say infrastructure, it includes everything starting from the desktop, from the firewall, from the networking, from the servers, from the AC room, and from the cooling systems for the infrastructure, and the um, everything which is in the data center, and as well as the employees for this IT infrastructure. So what we can do about this? Is there a way that we can standardize this? Can we outsource this? We need to see if there are like nearly 100 applications running for my enterprise, and I have a different configurations in all these applications. From a network point of view, it is going to be really clumsy. You saw in the previous diagrams, in the previous photo, like how this is. So if I have like 100 applications, and hundreds of applications are running in different technologies, it is a problem for maintenance, and upgradation should be done by in-house team, which is really pathetic, right? So we should see something as a service, and if we try to consolidate it, and either we can have it in-house or we can contract it outside. So like that, if you see, there are few infrastructure utility which can be consolidated or standardized. You should say firewall as a service. Now people have started giving firewall as a service, and the OS containers, and the micro data centers which they own, and the hyperconvergent systems, which leads to auto scaling, and pay as you go model, and the integrated infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, where we don't need to worry about all those upgrades running in the software market. We just purchase the APIs and start using it. And the SD WAN box, where the networking from one branch to another branch can easily happen through this. And for example, a few branches which are in remote locations does not have access through a standard WAN box, or through a standard networking. So we need to see, like, how we could standardize those things, those network strategies, and make sure that maintenance cost is going to be less. So we can also even provide the cost. We can even give the cost expense percentage, some of the cost expense percentage to the infrastructure manager, and ask him to reduce the cost. We have to just split the reduction of the cost and split it across, and let them think innovatively and come up with a solution how these all could be standardized, and come up with a reduction in cost which could be validated in next 1 year. And there is, like, even disaster recovery as a service, and unified communication as a service, where I don't need to manage all the unified communication in my organization. It is just going to be easy for me, for either it's a Skype call, or it is going to be a video conference. Totally it is going to be outsourced, right? Okay, so I don't need to manage anything. I just pay as you go model. And the last one is the virtual machine backup and recovery, and even that can be outsourced at a specific cost. And we need to think about how the infrastructure team can be safely utilized, and move to some other roles and responsibilities which they could even take. and find out how this could be managed effectively from the infrastructure point of view. So all these options are there. We just need to think about how innovatively or effectively we can see. And I'm not saying if you outsource everything it is going to fetch you a lot savings. No, definitely not. Okay, because the way that you maintain in-house and definitely is going to cost a 20 percentage or something more than what you have now. You have to think about it. But when you standardize it and when you consolidate it and provide it to outside, yes, that could reduce the cost. We need to think on that. And next one is the managed security services. So this is where you cannot reduce the uh, cost. Okay, in this managed security services, definitely there will be more expense than the cutting cost budget. See, because security has become a very major uh, a pillar for the organizations, right? It can damage the reputation, the brand value, etc. If the customer's data is going to be hacked, or there is a lot of problems in this. And the managed detection and response. So if there is any detection over the detection in the network, and how the threat should be responded, so we can even outsource that. And browser isolation, so browser isolation is completely moved away from the network or from the OS thing. And firewall as a service, as we saw, and managed security service providers. There are a lot of people in the market who does the security as a service, and cloud access security brokers are there. So when we interact with the cloud, how does that come into safely the data land into our internal enterprise. And the network sandboxing is where I can do my own network sandbox, where it will not affect the external environment or by an external threat. Now, how MSC should leverage cloud and the managed services. So we just look at the first, we need a full visibility of the cost of IT services, and second one is we had spoken about the how to standardize, and how to innovatively find out how we can consolidate and make it external vendors, or we can handle it inside, how the resources can be safely utilized, and there is a way to increase the productivity. We looked at from the infrastructure level and from the security point of level. And now we will look at the leveraging the cloud and the managed services at an application level. So when I say cloud is the optimizing costs through principle. It is not just the target that I am going to fix like 5% of my budget. No, it is not like that. So even if you see, there is a lot of threats happening in the, even there is an email threat. So basically we don't want to cut all and everyday expenses and just moving it to cloud. Okay, we are thinking that moving to cloud will always decrease my expense, but definitely it is which may or may not. So for that we need to do a complete deep diving of the cost evaluation for the cloud, as well as the one-time investment and the recurring investments costs of having it internally and comparatively with the other. So how we can use cloud in our organization, we need to understand what exactly we are going to do with cloud, and what is the architectural changes. Either it can be a technical, or from a people management, what is that I'm going to do, and what we are going to do in a day in and day out by using the cloud. And if we say cloud, the only problem with the cloud is the cost, and as well as the customization problem for my business service. So some vendors find it difficult to when they host some application as a product in the cloud, it may be very difficult for us to customize the products. So we need to look it from all angles, like whether it is going to simplify or does it increase decrease the accountability of my whole staff, and will it create a discipline, and whether the things will be completely agile. uh, so we need to look all those from these angles, right? And this is the main thing, the application consolidation, where we spent nearly 30 around 50 to 60 percentage of the total IT revenue goes into the applications, comparatively with infrastructure and personnel. So we need to look whether if I have 100 applications for a banking industry of for a banking enterprise, does all these 100 applications can I consolidate and get into one product, or should I reduce it to two or three products, or how is the business process is going to happen? We need to look from an application consolidation, which will significantly reduce the changes and as well as the cost involved in it, right? And vendor consolidation is also one part. For example, if I have a mobility infrastructure and a web infrastructure separately, and a data analytics team separately, and the data warehousing team separately, and if it is an insurance industry, if I have a policy um, business unit IT separately, and a claims business unit IT separately. IT should be seen from a single point of view, not from a business point of view. So how we can merge all these things together and come up with a product, or what is the business process that we can eliminate. So there is a lot to look into the application consolidation. And if there are multiple vendors, for example, I am just having the unified communication, and I have Google Suite for one business, and I have uh, Microsoft O 365, and the Cisco for a different lines of business, and is something else. So why can't I consolidate and bring into a single cost? So there is one advantage. If you consolidate the vendors, you can get a complete gain control over the cost, and there is a lot of negotiation that you can do with the vendors, right? So in that way, there is no separate maintenance for different vendors. The invoices can be done easily, and there is a cost reduction. So there is a lot into the vendor consolidation. And API management, so this is what we need to look into. So how does different systems interact? And there is if there is no centralized data exchange tool like an ESB or a TIPCO, or any other real-time tool, the data interchange, and if there is no visibility over it, then it is a problem, right? So API management is really we need to look into for consolidation. Which several offerings are providing it, like AWS, Microsoft Azure, where we can look at from a platform as a service point of view. And from content services, when I say content services, it is like text, audio and video. So if there is a marketing department, okay, and they don't want to create the things from scratches, they can even get it from the cloud, where there is a lot of customizations they can do. And contents also is there. So cloud based IT PPM services, and disaster and uh, integrated IaaS and PaaS. So there are a lot of things we need to look. So, and there is something called as XaaS, anything XaaS, which means that anything as a service. It is not just the integrated the platform as a service or the infrastructure. You can have anything as a service. Either it can be a disaster recovery as a service, or unified communication as a service, or API management as a service. There are a lot of things where for an organization you can just outsource it without any ITs SaaS. Now things are picking up very well, and we also need to look at the impact on the IT capabilities and the security, how secure we are. So we need to look from the RBI point of view and federal government point of view, like what are the constraints they have imposed. So in India or in several countries where the banking data should not be posted to cloud. So based on the the domain also it varies how the cost should be simplified based on the cloud services. When I say expose everything as a cloud, generally, people think that yes, it is going to reduce a lot of expense, cutting the expense, cutting the resource cost, etc. But definitely not. When you see, when you pay cloud as a service, it is just 20% more expensive than the existing operations. For example, cloud will be providing the license cost, the user license cost. So I just had an experience recently where I want to develop a mobile application which will be if I do it in-house for if it is costing around say $20,000, and I can use it for any login, any number of logins, I can just going to deploy it, right? But there is a vendor who is going to give me, who is going to develop the same mobile application, and he is going to give me the license cost for single user for $1,000. So if I have 100 users, it easily crosses around $10,000. So you need to look at the cost of around $20,000 or and $1 million. So uh, there are certain advantages and disadvantages of moving into cloud, but the only thing what I would say is if you have if you have consolidated all the processes, business processes, and as well as the IT processes, and if you have complete visibility, yes, then we can do it. So now what is the point? What should I do? Right. So in general, the CTO or a CIO, when they are getting into a job, you know what do they have to, what is the future thought process about the CTO. And there was uh, the statistics made where we see in North America it comes around 95 percentage, and Europe 90 percentage for 361 and 194 respondents of CIOs, and they focus mainly on the analytics data. They want to focus. So you see there is a lot more focus is only on the analytics and data, and some people are more business oriented. And you see there is a lot of the evolve as a digital leader is very less. Okay, so a CTO focus will be more into the analytics and data, more business oriented. And but why I kept this slide is because it is not just the improving of the business, it is also the cost optimization that we get into. So the CIO should also look from the not the very strategic vision. He should also get into a tactical things to look at things, and to reduce budget and have tight control over the budget and expenses, so that he could very well present it to the management, right? So now let's get into the recommendations. And after knowing all these things, what should I do as a CTO to the organization or CDO? You should achieve the full transparency as the first day. I would say, if you know, yes, this is what it is, and I am splitting the uh, cost. Coming to our initial problem, that the CTO had a challenge in splitting up the cost, to reduce the cost by 20% of the IT expenses. So to give that some percentage to infra team and application team and to the HR departments, and sorry, not for the department, for the call center team. So we should achieve the full transparent. After splitting it, we should have the complete transparency over the cost and what is exactly the cost that I'm spending for this cost center, including the hidden costs, etc. Right. Once we have the full transparency over the costs, The second thing is what we need to do is the standardization, and increase the operational efficiency, reduce infrastructure complexity, make it very simple. Whether you want to outsource it after consolidation or you want to have it in-house, what is the productivity increase that you can do for the IT employee personals, you should look at from that angle. And the third one is reduce the IT operational spending, like if there are future budgets, consolidate it, consolidate the vendors, get a better price. It should including the staff time and the non-IT and IT activities and the non-differentiating activities by services that are very less expensive, and find out what is the business process that we can do, employ an RPA for certain business operations, and whether we could get some IoT data from the real time and find out where the cost is getting struck and how we can improve it. And we should also not think from a short term, we should also think from a long term perspective. And also you should see as a whole the IT team as a whole, and find out figure out what is the best that you can do for the organization, not just by cutting the costs. If we just cut the cost, it is not going to help anymore. And there are few companies where there is no security professional at all, personnel. Basically, security is becoming more and more critical these days. So the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, has to be deployed, which is a mandatory thing, and we cannot cut the cost on it. So thinking from all these angles, I would say definitely if we look at this perspective, a CTO, CDO, or a CDO can definitely decrease 20% of the cost and make a tight control over the happenings, over the cost, and a better performance can be improved towards the organization, right? And thank you for listening for this cost optimization. I hope you will definitely reduce the cost by 20% of what it is now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.